Jy is ingeskakel op Goeiemôre, Good Morning. Ek is Arnold Gets. Baie lekker om jou saam met ons te hê. Now, the 2025 Tour de France officially kicked off on Saturday, and today I have the honor of speaking to the first South African to ever compete in the race, the legendary Robbie Hunter, who is tuning in to us all the way from Switzerland. Robbie, I cannot tell you how pleased I am that you're able to join us. And when I thought about this, I think the last time you and I spoke was 12 years ago, so a whole dozen years. I think the first question before we get into cycling, what is Robbie Hunter doing these days, and what are you doing in Switzerland?
Well, it's been a while, yes. Firstly, thanks for having me. I guess getting to the question, the last couple of years I've been living in Switzerland, which I started living there through my career. Since I stopped, I continue to live there because the family's there. And I've actually been running a sports management company, events, and obviously in sport, managing athletes as an agent, and looking after good big sports events like Tour of Switzerland and Tour of Guangxi, a couple international events actually.
And I also know that you had one of our top cyclists, Louis Meintjes, on your books. How are things with him, and how is his career going?
Good. Louis also been around for a while. He's no longer one of the young guys. He's not racing the Tour this year. Unfortunately, we don't have any South Africans in the Tour this year. But, his plan was to race the Tour of Italy and then, finish off the season really well with the Vuelta. So there were just two courses that suited him better than the Tour de France this year. So the team decided to focus on something slightly different. But everything's going well with him. And, he's looking forward to a good rest of the season, if we have to call it that.
Robbie, you were a pro rider for a good 14 odd years, and you became the first South African, I remember it so well, to ride the Tour way back in 2001. Just take us back to that and how hard it was for you. I remember how you said to me once in an interview how hard it was to break through, because at the southern end of Africa here, not the easiest thing to get around and not easy to get into a pro team.
Only it's a long time ago. Look, I think it's definitely not easy for people from the southern tip of Africa to break into the European ranks. I mean, we still see it today. There's very few South Africans that manage to get to Europe and actually get the opportunity to race professional. 20 odd years ago or 25 years ago, it was very similar to today. In the sense that there's just not a lot of inroads from South Africa, not a hell of a lot of support from the national federations and things like that. So when people are trying to go to Europe, it's usually the onus is on the parents to fund the riders, and it's really the sport, as much as it's international, it's very much a European sport, because you're always in the the line of sight of the pro teams. They follow the European racing, so no one really cares about what's going on a local level, either in South Africa, Australia, or even in America. So it was very similar like that to 25 years ago. I think what has changed is now you've got a lot of international teams that have got scouts, or there's a lot more agents out there like myself who actually do go out and actually try and find, if you want to call it, these diamonds in the rough, and bring them to the front and get them to Europe and help them at least be noticed by professional teams. But back then, when I turned pro, that wasn't around. So, you made your way to Europe, and if there weren't results, you never got noticed. So you had to get results on an international scale to be noticed by the professional teams and try and get the opportunity to turn pro.
Robbie, I just had a real serious flashback, because back here in South Africa on Goeiemôre, Good Morning, we just showed our viewers 2007 when you returned to the Tour de France as the team captain of the then Barlow World team, and you won that sprint stage 11 from Marseille to Montpellier. And I'm not joking, I still have goosebumps. When you think back on it, do you still as well?
Absolutely. It was an exceptionally emotional moment, extremely proud. The Tour de France is obviously the highlight, as we all know, of the cycling world. It's one of the three biggest events worldwide in all sports. So to be able to perform on that level is definitely something that stays with you for a lifetime. If you had to ask the same thing of Daryl Impey, he'd say the same thing. Anybody who ever races the Tour, just to be there is exceptionally, it's a highlight of a career. going on to win a stage is amazing. Although there's 21 stages, you've got close on 200 riders participating every year. I raced, 9 Tour de France's and won one stage. So do the math. 21 stages over 9 years. You managed to win one. It's a success, because not many people go through careers and actually even get to win a stage. So extremely proud, and something definitely that stands with you for a lifetime.
Yeah, Robbie, I do remember that. Certainly is one of my broadcast highlights, I must be honest, and I dine out on that quite often, because we were running around like lunatics in the studio at that time, and we were so proud of you. Just take us back to those days, because they were unfortunately also quite dark days as far as cycling was concerned. And obviously, the sport will always go under some sort of a cloud. How do you, as an ex-pro rider, handle that kind of thing?
Look, I mean, let's be more clear. What you're talking about is obviously, the drug situation, and it's a sport that's transformed itself from being very unregulated to being the most regulated sport in the world. That's something that needs to be made very clear. And I think when something is being regulated as much as it is today, you will always find people that are trying to cheat, and that happens in all sports. But I have to say, I'm extremely proud of the way the sport has gone through these dark days of the past. And, to where the sport is today, there will always be, and like I said before, always be people who do get caught. You've always got people in any walks of life who try and cheat. But I think it's a sport that stands out for the stances it takes against, doping or drugs in sport. It's a great sport. And I think, where it's come from, we're still by far the sport that does the most to make a difference within the sporting world in general.
I also have to ask you your thoughts on Daryl Impey, who is another South African who obviously also won a stage and really represented our country very well. What are your thoughts on him?
Daryl's a great friend of mine. We still speak regularly, and although he's actually living in Australia these days, but he comes to Europe quite often, still within the cycling world. Again, Daryl's, he was a great professional, very similar to myself. He was fast, possibly not as fast as me in major bun sprints, but, he could possibly climb better than me. So, he had a great career, had the yellow jersey at Tour de France, something I never achieved. But yeah, I mean, he's still involved in the sport on a very high level, as sports director at Israel Premier Tech. And yeah, look, he's got a lot of insight still to give to a lot of young professionals, which is why he's still in the sport. So, still very proud of what he achieved, and we're great friends.
I'm also very interested to hear, are you obviously still involved with cycling? You watch the Tour at the moment as it is ongoing?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm currently, obviously, in Switzerland. I was in Switzerland yesterday. I'm in Italy today, actually, at the Women's Tour of Italy. But I actually leave tomorrow to go to the Tour de France for the next 5 days. I've got quite a bit of work going on there, and hopefully selling a few athletes as an agent to some of the professional teams, or negotiating some bigger contracts, put some money in the back pocket. But yeah, so I'll definitely be there the next few days. It's a great event. It's always nice to be around. It's one thing watching it on TV, but when you experience it live, it's a whole new level of understanding what actually goes into the Tour de France.
It's funny you say that, I beg your pardon, because I was going to lead you into this question, and you've done that perfectly for me. Just give our viewers an insight into what it's like storming down on the finish line, trying to get onto a wheel, and it opens up for you, and you're doing 70, 80 k's an hour, shoulder to shoulder, and anything can happen. Just take us through what you feel at those moments, Robbie.
Look, it's hectic. I think, if we go back, 2 days ago, where there was a massive, the green jersey, Jasper Philipsen, who ended up crashing out. Things are so intense in the finals, as you said, speeds up to 70, 80 k's an hour. As much as you run through the best case scenario, going into these finals, things happen so fast, and, whatever plan you've put into place can go very wrong very fast. And like I said, we saw that a couple of days ago with Jasper Philipsen, the fastest guy in the race, coming to the finish, trying to gain more points and possibly win the stage. And, in a split second, he's on the floor and his race is over. So extremely stressful. Things just happen literally. It's almost impossible to gauge what's going on, making split second decisions. And hopefully at the end of the day, things work out well. The biggest problem is only one guy crosses the line first. So everybody thinks they're doing the right thing, and next thing you know, there's a guy who does it better than you, and you end up second or third, or hopefully you win. But yeah, it's crazy. Things just happen so fast. But these are moments and memories that you remember forever. And the guys that are obviously competing in Tour de France right now, that they'll go on like myself to years to come, and obviously remember it forever.
So Tadej Pogačar won his 100th yesterday in stage 4. Is he going to pull this off yet again? Lastly.
Great question. I think we've seen a great Pogačar show up. He's had an amazing season. We know he's one of the all-time greats, if not the all-time great, and it's a big debate to get into, so we're not going to get into that now. But I think we've also seen a Jonas Vingegaard who's come to the Tour de France a lot more spriteful, if you want to call it that, than he was last year. He's done a massive block of training up in the mountains to get himself to 100%, if not 110% prepared for this year's tour. He's an tour winner. I think the two of them are the standout athletes, and we've also seen Jonas in the last couple of days. He's up there, he's fighting. He's a slightly smaller athlete, not really suited to these last stages, and possibly a couple of the up and coming stages. But the way he's riding, the way his team's supporting him, the two of them are definitely going to be the guys up there that are competing.
We have unfortunately run out of time, so we'll leave that there with Robbie in the meantime. But remember, this interview will be available for you to watch on YouTube. We're back after this.